Do you know what document design mode is, when you should use a polyfill, and what are the problems with animated GIFs except for pronunciation? Find out all about this and more in the next few minutes. This episode is sponsored by Jelly. More on why you need a better shared inbox in a bit. First up, Victor Ayomipo explains how to preview content changes using the document design mode property. I'm sure you're familiar with content editable property. It allows you to set any element on the page as editable. Design mode, on the other hand, sets the entire document in the editable state. The design mode has actually been available in the browsers since Internet Explorer 6, as Victor explains, which is quite fascinating, but up until now, it never really occurred to me that there are actually viable use cases for that particular mode. In this article, Victor shares some examples where you might find it helpful. Of course, everything that you can do with the design mode, you can do in developer tools, and actually, I have been using developer tools to do all of those things that Victor mentions here, but using design mode is actually a little bit easier and more effective. To enable design mode, you need to open developer tools and you need to run a document.designMode equals on. By default, the value is off. On is a string, of course, and once I do this, the entire document becomes editable. This allows me to very quickly preview potential changes I want to make to the content of my website without actually going into code or without messing with developer tools. For example, instead of email newsletter, I want to have CSS Weekly newsletter here. If I wanted to use developer tools to do exactly this, I would have to open developer tools, select the element that I want to change, then double click on the content and change it. This might not seem like a big deal, but if you want to change multiple elements, using design mode is much more efficient. In this article, Victor shares a number of examples. Some are straightforward and obvious, but others might not be as obvious, but are really nice. And the one that I like is testing SEO title and meta description. So if you want to see how the meta description will look on the Google search results page, you can open Google search results with your page and then directly on the spot, using design mode, tweak the content and see exactly how it looks in the context with all other Google results. Let me show you how this works. I will open Google and search for CSS Weekly. And as you can see here, I clearly need to update my meta description. So I'm going to use design mode to test this directly and see how much content can I actually fit right here. I'm going to open console in my developer tools, set design mode to on, and now I can tweak the content right here. Stay up to date with the latest trends in CSS. And it's pretty clear now that I can actually expand this and add a little bit more content. Just as well, I can test my blog meta content here and see exactly what happens. By the way, if you're still not subscribed to CSS Weekly newsletter, now is your chance. Head to cssweekly.com and, well, subscribe. And also, if you haven't checked out CSS Weekly's blog, you're going to find it at blog.cssweekly.com. It's fairly new, just a couple of articles on there, but I am working on the new stuff and there will be much more content on there in the future. Another example that Victor shares for using design mode is testing how would your social media post look exactly in the context of all the other posts. So for example, if I wanted to see how would my new YouTube video title compare to other titles on the page directly in the YouTube interface, I can just open YouTube homepage, enter design mode, and test it out directly. And that's exactly what I'll do here. I'll enter design mode. I'm going to use right click here just so I don't open the actual video, and I'm going to change this to why everyone loves Tailwind CSS. I think that the video with this title would get quite a lot of views. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Of course, there are more good use cases for the design mode, and Victor shares a number of others, so make sure to read the article. This week's sponsor is Jelly. Jelly is the easiest way to manage a shared inbox. It is more than just an email client. It is actually designed with teamwork in mind, and the features that are available within Jelly are actually here to help you solve your problems when dealing with emails within a team. Regardless if you're working in a big team or if just you and your co-founder are actually building a small side project or a small app, a startup, Jelly will help you solve all problems regarding email. Instead of just talking about it, I will quickly show you how great it actually is. This is what your inbox will look like in Jelly. And I'll tell you immediately, I love how clean and simple this is. Email clients, in my experience, are just way too crowded and way too bloated with number of sidebars and toolbars and whatnot, but Jelly is completely different. It gives you precisely what you need to get the work done as a part of the team. By the way, the pricing for Jelly is flat. So regardless if you're in a team with 2 people or 20 people, the price for you will be the same. As I was saying, Jelly works in a way that you claim a conversation for yourself. Likewise, other people can claim conversations for themselves, which means that they will handle that particular conversation. Here, I see the conversation that I claimed in this demo interface, and here are the conversations that somebody else claimed. I can open any conversation even if I didn't claim it and see exactly what is happening within the team with this particular subject, with this particular conversation. One of the great features that Jelly offers is inline communication with your teammates. So this part right here is communication that is happening within the team. The client who sent an email doesn't see this. Only you and your team can access this. And again, I'm going to mention the UI here. This is a conversation between multiple people on multiple levels, between clients, between team members, but it still is clean and simple, very easy to process, very easy to understand, and very enjoyable to work with. And as I'm talking about UI, I am going to mention that they also have a dark mode. You'll love it because it looks great just as this one. Here it is. Again, really simple, really clean, and really easy to process. Of course, Jelly comes with a number of traditional features that you expect in email clients, such as labels, so you can very easily understand what conversation is part of which department. For example, here is legal matter, here is something completely different, magic, just like Jelly. So hit the link in the description, try Jelly, you and your teammates will be happy that you did. Thanks so much to Jelly for sponsoring. Next up, Jeremy Wagner shares some advice on baseline and polyfills. I'm sure you're already familiar with baseline. It gives you an easy way to determine if a certain feature, certain web feature is supported in browsers and safe to use, but general information that you get from the baseline might not be enough just as is to determine if you can actually use the feature in production and if you actually should polyfill it. Baseline gives you following messages about browser support. Limited availability, the feature is not supported across all major browsers. Newly available, the feature became available in all major browsers within the last 30 months, which is quite okay. And widely available, the feature has been supported by all major browsers for more than 30 months. This gives you a pretty clear idea when it's really safe to use the feature that you want to use. If it's widely available, then you don't have to worry about polyfilling it, about providing fallbacks. You can use it safely without thinking about it. But what should you do if the status is limited availability or newly available? Can you use feature that is newly available, or are there some other considerations that you should think about before actually using it? As Jeremy explains, the thing that you can do is determine your baseline threshold. Essentially, this means testing your own website, your own users, and seeing exactly how many of those users are actually using browsers that support the feature that you want to use. And if that threshold is high enough, if the feature that you want to use is available for 99% of your users, your actual visitors, well, then you can safely use it without thinking about it. If the number is different, you might think about using a polyfill. And if you are thinking about using a polyfill, then there is another set of questions that you should ask yourself before you actually use it. And here is a really good outline. As Jeremy suggests, evaluation criteria for unsupported features is enhancement, additive, and critical. Enhancement includes features that enhance users' experience. If the feature is missing in the browser, the users will likely not even notice it. They will be able to use the website as is, they will just get a little lesser experience. Second criteria is additive, which are features that might impact how the web page looks or functions. Essentially, this means that users might not even notice the missing feature if they compare it in a different browser that does support the feature. One example that I can give you for this is animating details element. Users will likely not even notice that opening or closing the list item is animated. If the browser supports animation, fine, let's make it animated. But if browser doesn't support it, the functionality of opening and closing list items will work perfectly, but it just won't be animated. It doesn't make a big difference, and you should avoid using a polyfill in this example because it will only worsen performance. Lastly, we have critical criteria, which means that the feature provides necessary functionality, critical functionality, that will result in a broken experience for your users. And you absolutely do not want this. This is unacceptable outcome, so you do need to decide if you want to use the polyfill or if you want to work around the issue by actually using different features that are available and supported in modern browsers. Of course, Jeremy goes much more into detail about all of this, giving concrete examples which are really good and really solid. So I definitely recommend that you dig into this article and get a better understanding of when you could, should, or shouldn't use a polyfill. Next up, Chris Square explores alternatives to animated GIFs, or GIFs if you prefer it that way. As you're surely aware, animated GIFs are terrible for web performance. They are huge in size, impact cellular data bills, require more CPU and memory, cause repaints, and are battery killers. That sounds pretty bad, and the alternative is using a video. As Chris shows, these are attributes that you need to mimic GIF behavior. Autoplay, loop, muted, and inline. If you set this on a video, it will mimic the GIF behavior exactly without the negative sides of actually using a GIF. Additional solution that you might not be aware of is actually using a video in an image tag. And this is only supported in Safari, so this is probably not an approach that you want to use, but at least I'm sure you'll find it fascinating. You can use video as image source, and this will work in Safari. Here's a demo that actually showcases this. As I'm currently in Chrome, this is not working, but if I were to open this website in Safari, I would see a video here exactly in my image tag. Next up, we have Style Observer by Leah Verreau and Dmitry Sharabin. And this is a robust production-ready library to observe CSS property changes. So this is essentially an event listener for changes in your CSS. For example, you can attach a Style Observer to your CSS custom property, and when that property changes, you can initiate a number of other changes. If the state of your component changes from normal to warning, well, you might want to change a number of other properties related to that particular change, and you can attach Style Observer. Once the initial property is flipped to warning, you can tweak all the other colors that you need and set them exactly to the value that are corresponding to your new state. This might be an oversimplified example, but you get the idea. And the thing about this library is that you will probably very rarely find an actual good use case for this, but once you do stumble upon a problem where you want to listen to changes on your CSS properties, then you will find this as a lifesaver. So keep this in your tool belt, and somewhere down the line, when you will find a use case where you have to listen to CSS property changes, you're going to know that you can use Style Observer exactly for this. And lastly, we have CSS View Timeline Shine Effect created by Ryan Mulligan. I love this demo because number one, it looks quite simple, but it's extremely effective, very attractive. The shine effect is happening on the items on those cards as I'm scrolling the page, and it is really subtle, but really effective. I love it because Ryan used a number of cutting-edge CSS features, such as add property and mainly view timeline, as the title suggests, to actually create this effect. As we were talking about Polyfills a little bit earlier, this is a perfect example of when you really don't need to use one, because in the browsers where those features are not supported, the users will not get this shiny effect, but they will be able to use the website perfectly and they will not even notice that something is missing. Of course, Ryan goes a step further than that and actually tests for the support of animation timeline and enables animations only in that particular case. The driving engine behind this beautiful effect is view animation. Essentially, we have a number of animations here, gleam, shine, and shadow, and we're setting them on view, which means that these animations, gleam, shine, and shadow, will be triggered as the user scrolls the page. So this is a really nice and stunning example of how you can use new cutting-edge CSS features to enhance user experience and give your visitors with the latest browsers a little bit more. Thank you so much for your attention. My name is Zoran Jambor. I will see and hear you in a different CSS polyfill, or rather, in the next video.